you so much. So, my story begins, or it started with me telling you about my life before I decided to walk away from a marriage. And I've told it twice or thrice. Um, it was quite a happy marriage at first, and then it disintegrated over time. So I just want to talk about today what happens, life after the big break. So to start off, I've got brokenness. I felt worthless, useless. I had failed. I had nothing to share or tell people about. And if I tried to give advice, I had nothing to show for it. Some people would just look at me, shrug their shoulders, and say, "What have you got to show for it?" But oftentimes, I was my worst judge and critique. I had nothing. I had a broken marriage. That's all I had to my credit. Then I'll talk about desperation to keep friends and family, to make them accept you the way you are, broken, defeated, nothing left to hold. In desperation, I had to kiss a few toads as well. It's about trial and error, and you don't want to think, yes, I didn't make it that time, but it certainly wasn't my fault. And then with kissing the toads, sometimes you'd feel, if he likes me, why not? That came with overdoing things and excess, the dressing to please, feeling you're in love when you're not, trying to please your friends and your family just to be accepted. So there was a lot of trial and error there. You would see me portraying sweetness, pretending to be strong when inside I was dying, I was falling apart, I was broken. That came with the lies from friends and family, potential suitors, people who do anything to be in your space, not because they cared, but because they loved it when they saw you getting broken, more and more broken by the day when you were disintegrating. Denial. I refused to accept that I had failed. And with denial came giving the blame, the total blame to the other person. It wasn't my fault. I played my part. Surely he could have done better. But what happens after denial? Then came the acceptance. It takes two to tango. Maybe I was moody. Maybe I was passive. Maybe I was too submissive. Maybe I was too much of a yes person. I could have done better. Maybe I should have fought, but I didn't. I didn't fight to save it. I should have stood up to him. I should have said no to most of the things he did. I should have stood up to his mom. I should have refused to let those words hurt me and break me. I should have said no to my friends and family for trying to make me stay when getting out was the best option for me. I could have said no and kept my health and my sanity, but I didn't. So with acceptance came healing. Self pity was a guest in my house most of the time. I felt so sorry for myself. I didn't want to wake up. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't believe I could be better than what I had, what I had achieved, which I no longer had. There was nothing to hold in my hands. Yes, I had my children. That was the reminder of my marriage, but I had nothing else left. I had left everything, the dignity, the title that comes with marriage, and the so called respect that is accorded to a woman, especially in my culture when you are married. There was anger too at the world, at myself. I'm not supposed to be divorced. I'm not supposed to be broken. I know people who don't deserve to be in marriages. I know people who don't deserve to be loved. They're terrible. They they don't have anything positive to share. I'm such a lover. I love hugging. I care. I listen. I was so angry at the world and at myself. Like I said, acceptance. It is what it is. It could have been worse. If I had stayed, I would not have survived. After the first stroke, the second one was probably going to come and finish me off. The BP meds that I take, they probably have had to increase the dosage. The self-esteem that once flew out of the window, it would never have come back. And no, I would never have been able to look at him and try to love him again after the beatings, after the harsh words, after the taunting. So, yes, it's just as well that it had to end when it did. Then came the self love and the self worth. It was a process, it wasn't easy. It took going back to school, it took getting to know new people. It took saying no to the people that I used to know. It took a lot of things, starting to go out again, learning to accept myself the way I was. I don't have a perfect body. I've got a C-section and my belly just basically has a life of its own. So self-love, self-worth. I started loving myself. I'm not such a bad person. I've got a sense of humor. I'm a good listener. I am more of a talker than a listener, but here I am. I can talk to others, I can share. So I can't be that bad. So it took accepting that what I had which is being my best, is what I had to offer to the world. I started meeting people, going out again. I gave up the things that I used to do because I wanted to belong, to fit in. I stopped watching movies that I used to watch with him and people I no longer associated with. I started taking up new sport. I started watching football. I decided I am going to support a team, still supporting it, still watching football and still loving it. I started writing. I started reading. The more I started to do these things, the more I started to love myself because I had broken the mold. I had stopped doing things to please another. I started doing things to please myself. I started doing things because I really enjoyed them. I started doing things that would occupy my time and things that I would not regret because I was learning to know myself, to love myself. I found my identity. So you're going to ask me, is there a happy ever after? Does my story end well? Yes, it does. I love myself. I love my life. I do not regret the day I took the bold step to walk away from everything toxic, to walk into a space where I can breathe and be free. I still take meds. I've given up some and accepted that, yes, now I am hypertensive. I am diabetic. I have headaches. But I've learned to say no to the things that I do not like. I've learned to eat well. I try to most of the time. I've learned to give up the cravings and I've learned to look in the mirror and say, girl, you're the best person that you can ever be. Don't ever stop trying. You deserve everything that you think should come your way. So, not very long, but that's how far I've come so far. That's all I have for you today. Thank you.